Hey everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Trailer Park. First of all, apologies that we weren't here last week, but I was kind of on a plane halfway over Canada at the time, so kind of hard. They don't really take kindly to broadcasting YouTube shows in the air, so my apologies. And the week before, I kind of forgot that I was leaving that week, so my bad. But here we are, and I am very happy that Morgan has dug herself out from underschool work, graduated law school, and is back with us this week. Hello, Morgan. Yay.
Hi. Yes, I'm so happy to be done. And then as soon as I was done, it was like, now you get to study for the bar exam. So it's like, I'm free. Hooray. Never mind.
Well, it's only what a month and a half till you write, so
yeah, end of July.
Well, then you have your co-host nagging you about recent SCOTUS cases.
That's true. If I ask anything about the labor, I'll just be like, "See, the decision is dumb."
We'll get into that later, though.
Oh, and Trav is watching. Hello, Trav. They said my partner in crime, Morgan, is back. Yes, she is. This week, she's our partner, damn it. That's all right. And, of course, all the way from Pennsylvania, as usual, is Beth. Good evening.
Howdy, howdy.
Yay, and she's not melted yet. This is good. And
no, the heat is tolerable.
There we go. And I no longer sound like an asthmatic walrus, which I did yesterday. So this is a bonus because I came back from the convention with a convention plague or con crud or whatever you want to call it. But I suppose it could have been the plane. I don't know. But yeah, I wasn't sounding so good. But I sound a little more human today. And all the way from North Carolina, good evening, Kyle.
To me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, cool. How are you?
That's on the screen now.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome. We have a soft spot for North Carolina because that's where the Reason Con is held. So
is it?
Yes.
When is that coming up again?
2019 in April.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
You will, because most likely we'll all be there.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
We usually
I would love for you to be able to meet my co-host for the Non Sequitur Show. Unfortunately, due to recent events, we've learned that he doesn't exist. So
this is true. We did, but we have a facsimile, a clone of Billy Connolly, known as Steve McRae.
I'm officially a philosophical zombie at this point.
Okay.
Just called P zombie.
He's all the way from California. In the past, we're in the future, so he's always a bit behind.
Yeah, it's like 4:30 my time, so yeah. Way behind. Southern California, baby.
Yep, he looks like a surfer, don't he?
I have never surfed.
Not at all.
I'm somehow not surprised. So these two have recently, I mean, they've been doing stuff online for a while, and Steve's been running a great debate community and a bunch of channels and stuff. But the two of them recently put their heads together and came up with something called the Non Sequitur Show, which sounds really cool. And they've just been blowing it out of the water and basically taking over YouTube right now. So
we're going to own it all.
There's got to be some kind of magical chemistry, something there. So
we don't agree. That's what the chemistry is.
That's really kind of what it boils down to. If we agreed upon everything, we wouldn't have a show.
There is that. Very true. Very true. So before we get into the stuff about the show, I always like to, now Steve's been on before, but he was on with like a whole bunch of other people, and we didn't really get into personal stories then too much. So I like to delve into the old, were you religious at some point? And if so, what flavor were you? So since I already kind of know Steve's story a bit, I'm going to start with Kyle. Put you on the spot.
Okay. I was religious. Yes, I was. My flavor was Independent Baptist. So, if Southern Baptists aren't conservative enough for you and you need to go more right, then Independent Baptists are for you. I got out of it when I was 25. And yeah, I was pretty deep into it.
Got out so like last week, right? When you're 25.
You are my favorite person now. No, I'm almost 32. When I turned 30, I didn't get out of bed. I shut all the blinds in my room. I crawled under the covers and I refused to get out. So I'm still not handling 30s very well, but
wait till you hit 40s, dude.
That's what I told him.
They'll have some kind of like magic serum by then where I can stay young forever. Then hopefully. He
won't leave his bed for a week when he hits 40.
For a month.
I was gonna say probably a month. So,
but can I just say real quick? I do love the name of your show, Beyond the Trailer Park, because I grew up in North Carolina. We actually at our school had a trailer park for like classrooms. You had like one big main building and the trailer park classrooms, and it was always interesting because when you would do like tornado drills and fire drills in a normal school, you would have everybody go out into the hallway and tuck under, put their head in between their legs in case the tornado didn't blow you away. It was different at a school like mine because our tornado drills consisted of everybody jumping out of the trailer and pushing the fucking thing to safety.
Oh shit. Well, I will tell you, the name of the show actually has a North Carolina connection.
Of course.
We are a spin-off of a show that sadly is no longer being produced, but it was just called Atheists on Air. And it was run by a couple of North Carolina fellas, went by Cash and Professor Steven. And unfortunately, Cash was no longer able to be a public personality due to real life constraints, and he had to stop producing the show. We do still talk to Professor Steven, and he comes on the show when he has time. He's working a lot these days, but there was a sketch on Atheists on Air that Cash did that was just brilliant. And it was the story of Pastor Roy, who was the pastor of the church at the Catfish Creek Trailer Park in Clio. Was it Clio, North Carolina? I think he called it. Yes. God, it's been too long. But he had a cast of characters at the Catfish Creek Trailer Park, and and Pastor Roy would give his church news every show and whatnot. So we are the spinoff, and so we went beyond the trailer park as a homage to Pastor Roy and Catfish Creek.
I like it. Now, is this who I'm joined with now? Is this the Professor Steve that you're talking about?
No. Professor Steven.
Steve.
Yeah, no. This is Steve the clone. Remember, or
Gotcha.
Steve the non-existent. Whatever.
It's your imagination. I'm just a phenomenon.
I keep forgetting.
Yeah, no. Professor Steven generally does not have facial hair, and he likes to wear sort of Victorian-y outfits with cravats and velvet smoking jackets and really cool. Yes. So.
I like it.
Here we are in t-shirts. I would have wear a wife beater, but I didn't have any. I should have bought one for this.
That would be a little more trailer parkish, but whatever.
Yeah, damn it. With a little coffee stain right here,
Yeah.
And a fanny pack.
And gotta have a fanny pack.
Oh, now guys, my husband wears a fanny pack.
I'm not judging. Yes, I am. Don't wear a fanny pack.
You know, I guess it's better than immerse.
Not by much. Not by much.
Yeah. Hey, at least I got him to start wearing a black leather one instead of like the nylon thing he was wearing when we started going out.
I just have my wallet, and I got a little anti-shea case that I carry around for my computer, but I'm not going to wear immerse.
So, Kyle, have you been doing sort of activist-y stuff for a while, or is this new for you?
This is brand new. I would never think that I would ever consider myself an activist, per se. I guess I am now.
You have a show, dude. That kind of counts.
Yeah, I don't know that means activism, though.
Well, I guess it is in a way, but no, this is brand new to me. Just started in January, actually. Yeah. It kind of started in one direction and went a completely different direction, and here we are. But we'll get into that. I'm assuming in a little bit.
Yes. You started with One Direction, huh? How did they enjoy that?
Loved it. Not as good as the Backstreet Boys or In Sync, but you know,
okay.
Who's counting?
Oh, now what
there was something dirty in there, wasn't there?
Of course there was.
Okay, absolutely.
I did not know until because I went and looked up your bios, so I had something to write for the blurb for the show. I did not know you were a trained chef. That is pretty cool.
Yes. I went to college. I went to UNCG and was studying hospitality because in the transition from high school to college, I worked at a country club as a bartender. And I remember looking back in the kitchen and seeing the chefs back there just creating all of these beautiful plates. And except for one thing, they have this really nasty thing at a country club called tomato aspic. And what it is it's a congealed, like, tomato-based, almost like a wedding cake. It's tiered and it's got like vegetables.
Oh,
yeah, it's disgusting.
Oh, you lost me at cold.
Pass.
If you get a chance, Google it. But the reason I bring that up is because I probably one of my most embarrassing stories was when I started at the country club, going from a bartender to helping out in the kitchen. Because I told them, I was like, look, I'm going to change my major over in college. This is what I want to do. I want to do food like this. And obviously, starting out as the low man on the totem pole, you have to do shit jobs. Can we cuss on here, by the way?
Oh, I heard you get 2 fucks, but after that,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Make sure you time your fucks accordingly. So
just making sure.
Fuck later, so you only have 2 per episode. Okay, only 2 fucks.
No, so that's crap. Go ahead.
So one of my jobs was to carry this tiered tomato aspic. It has like 6 layers on it.
Ew.
You have to take it from the walk-in to the table where they kind of slice it up. And so it's this thing about this tall, and I'm straddling it like this my first day in there, and I turn outside of the walk-in, my feet come up out from under me, and I am just covered in tomato aspic from head to toe.
All I saw was you said straddling, and Beth got all excited.
It couldn't be just like it couldn't be like wedding cake. If it was wedding cake, I could have handled that, but this stuff was nasty.
That sounds disgusting. You.
But yeah, I wound up being a chef for 12 years, and I hung up my apron probably a year and a half ago.
Fair warning.
Stuff too.
There's no such thing as hanging up your apron. I've tried 4 times.
True. That's true. Because
I've been in food service now for 40 years. Although I'm not certified as chef training, I was on the job. So yeah, I've tried to get out of it for years.
I'll tell you too. I've seen. I had my own kitchen down in Salisbury for probably 4 years, and you get a lot of people that come through there that you start to see a pattern, in my opinion. I think that people who grow up in the business or, learn as they go along, rather than having a trained career in it, the people who start into it and kind of work their way through always wind up being better chefs anyway, because in a classroom setting, you're learning how to make, recipes and cook things under a classroom setting. And that's a lot different from being in the middle of,
Yeah,
you know.
I actually learned. I worked at an Italian restaurant for years and years, and I actually learned how to cook over the phone as the owner, who was my boss at the time, was sick in the hospital with mono, and our normal chef didn't show up, and here I am. I was a prep cook. And I'm like, we have orders, and I have no fucking clue how to make this shit.
You're gonna be a chef today.
And he's like, okay, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. I ended up working there for about 10 years. I started as a dishwasher there and worked my way up. But my uncle used to run the Royal Your Host restaurants, which in Buffalo were a big thing back in the 70s, early 80s. And but I started out there, and my entire family worked there, and I was like, I'm never going to work there. I'm never going to work there. I ended up working there one summer.
Of course.
But I got hooked because of Graham Kerr and Julia Child and Jan Con Cook. And I've always, I mean, the one story my dad always used to tell was that when we moved to our new house, which I grew up in my entire life, when I was 3, they didn't even have the furniture in there. I went out to the moving truck, found the box that had the electric fry pan, and was sitting in what became our living room frying bacon and eggs at 3 years old.
Oh, good choice though.
And my dad told me, and this was years and years ago, that he goes, I knew from that point on you'd be food service. And I have tried so many times to get out of it because physically I can't really do it anymore. I don't cook now. I'm prepping. I mean, literally dishwasher, but that's all I can handle right now.
I'll tell you, if anything, it prepared me. The one thing that you learn being a chef is that you learn not to ever panic because of the situations that you're in. Yep. And that proved to be very good training for some of the guests that we deal with on our show.
I can see that.
I owe my culinary career. I'm going to attribute that to my culinary career.
I attribute it to alcohol.
Yeah.
Or alcohol.
So Steve, I know a little bit about your story, and interesting. I know that you were a Mormon at one time, but you were something else before that, weren't you?
Jewish.
No? Jewish. Oh, that's right. Yes.
That's
Jewish
more of a cultural heritage thing. I mean, I can't get away from my mom's Jewish. So if my mom's Jewish, and in the eyes of the temple, the kids are Jewish. So I'm still culturally Jewish.
But did you practice anything before you got into?
No, I mean, my next door neighbors when I was growing up were devout Jews, and we would go to the synagogue with them occasionally and do the whole Torah thing. But I was kind of too young to really understand it, and so I was never really. I put the little yarmulke thing, but when we moved, I never did anything with that, so I didn't know what the Jewish faith really entailed, other than I knew how to say Kepler in Yiddish, which was head, and I knew I hated gefilte fish. About it.
Yeah.
What are your views on dreidels?
Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of clay. Dreidel, dreidel, dreidel with dreidel out of clay. I like dreidels.
Excellent.
Awesome. So what possessed you?
I'm not that bad of a Jew.
Well, so what possessed you to become a Mormon?
Joseph Smith.
Yeah, Smith.
Before that, Dave Fulton's in the chat there, and he says that Steve might have had a bris.
Maybe. Yeah, when I was long time ago. I don't even remember. No, I didn't. Did I have? I don't think I did. I think they just. But anyways,
we don't need to know.
Yeah, I don't know the details. I don't really care. I had a lot of friends who were LDS for the longest time, and I always used to go to church with them and stuff. Like even with the Boy Scouts, I was heavily involved with the Mormon Church. But it wasn't until I discovered girls, and I found that I liked LDS girls, and one in particular, and I fell head over heels. And I started taking missionary lessons so I could kind of date her more. Had a somewhat of a religious experience, I guess. She broke my heart, and to this day hates my guts, even though she's on my Facebook page, and occasionally I'll put a little happy face or smiley face on her page. Consequently, her sister still loves me. Her sister's adoring of me. But she and I fell out of favor 30 plus years ago.
Oh dear.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I never understood that phrase, Steve. When people say that, I'm head over heels.
I was mad over her. Aren't you always head over heels? I was in love, totally. Yeah.
it implies that you're standing on your head for this person,
or that you're doing a flip for them.
Yeah, you're doing a flip for them. You're flipping for them. Right.
But I mean, aren't you?
And I don't
always
get why it was. She was so mean. Even to this day, she's mean. I mean, she always posts things about how everybody's kind of like dissing her and nobody's standing by her. And I'm thinking, because you're mean, you know. But whatever.
So, how long were you a Mormon?
A day and a half. No, I don't know. I mean, maybe about a year. I was kind of active. Then I joined the military. Right after I got baptized, I joined the military, and so it wasn't kind of easy to even have that kind of network because I didn't really know much about the church except that I had this experience, felt that it was the way I was supposed to go. And I talked to a few people in the military about the church, and I even have one person this day. He credits me saving his marriage because I gave him Book of Mormon, and he became Mormon, and he's Mormon to this day. And if it works for him and everything, then I mean, more power to him and stuff. And stuff.
Did you get the magic underwear though?
I never wore it.
No, if he was only in,
I didn't went through the temple.
Yeah, if he was only in for a year, he didn't get to magic underwear status. Nope. No, there's a couple in our local atheist group that are ex-Mormons, and they got the underwear at some point because they got married in the temple. And
yeah, if you get married in the temple or you have any kind of endowments, then you would wear their garments.
Yeah, like if he had been in long enough to serve a mission, he would have got endowed and got his magic undies. But
we had someone model it on the show once, didn't we?
We did. Yep. Have you guys?
They're not very fashionable.
Have you guys heard of New Name Noah? He's the guy who did the hidden camera of all of the temple ceremonies and put it up on YouTube. Oh, you should check him out. He's amazing.
We had Bryce on though recently.
Yeah, our friend Bryce. Yeah.
Yeah, he was very learned. He really did know his stuff.
Bryce is a walking encyclopedia.
Very knowledgeable.
Really yeah. But yeah, Bryce, we've had him on 4 or 5 times now.
Yeah. Couple times, yeah.
The frequent guest.
Our general Mormon go-to guy.
Friend of a pod.
Yes, friend of the pod. Yeah, I went to the shit show in Milwaukee with him. That was fun. The two of us sitting there going, what the fuck did we just see? But that's a whole other story. So what so you just kind of faded out of Mormonism when you got in the military?
Yeah, but then when all of a sudden with the whole Prop 8, I believe it was in California, and the LDS Church was actively against the gay marriage, I couldn't reconcile that. And then as I look more into the archaeology, I couldn't reconcile that either. So even though I think the people are wonderful, I think Mormonism, if I ever went back to a religion, it would be LDS, only for the fact that, look at it, if they're all messed up, at least LDS I'm familiar with, and I like the people. So and I don't think they're a cult in any way, shape, or form. But I understand their practices. But I mean, if you really want a weird religion, we'd be talking one about tonight on the Non Sequitur Show about Scientology. Now that's right. I mean,
yes,
we put them in the same league as Scientology.
We've done I think 5 shows on that too. We've got some ex-Scientologist friends that have wowed us in many ways.
Praise Xenu.
Hail Xenus.
Nicola's in the chat. He says, "Oh God, it's young Colonel Sanders."
Do I get free chicken?
I like his pointy chin.
Thank you.
And I'm gay, so.
And I'm not.
So it means more.
I love those kind of.
I am so the odd man out here. You have no idea, Nicola.
We love you anyways.
Yeah,
I can't quite get my beard going, so
no, not yet. But
you might be able to join a fraternity easier that way.
I know they keep catching me. I don't know what gives me away every time.
we were discussing.
Might be the boobies.
Might be the boobs. Yeah,
might be.
We were discussing fraternities before the show, and somehow we decided that Morgan thought she wanted to join one, which I don't think she really does. But
no, they would. No. I used to be a karaoke DJ at a Mexican restaurant known as the place to go if you were a freshman and drink, and they put Everclear in the margarita machines. So Yeah, I've had my fair share of
down with that.
frat boys trying to fight each other, and I'm like, we're trying to sing songs from Lion King. Why are we fighting? And then sorority girls crying in the bathroom, and I was just like, now's not the time or place.
Oh, that's like every bar night that I've ever had. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
If it doesn't end with somebody crying, you didn't have fun.
So, and so just to illustrate how much poor Steve is the odd man out, you're not really an atheist. You're an agnostic, right?
And I'm straight.
That too. Well, so am I.
Really?
I'm the only other straight person here, but you know,
that's true.
Straight agnostic. Where is your joy, Steve?
I know. I am bland. I'm like vanilla. You know. I don't even have any weird proclivities.
Well, although they do say that vanilla is going up in price right now, so you know.
Yeah, well, I like vanilla flavor actually. You know.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But you have an interesting take. Your agnosticism, correct me if I'm wrong, it's based more in philosophical definitions, right?
Yeah, it's based upon more of an epistemic reasons. I mean, all you have to do is think of this. When you have an atheist that says, I just don't believe the theist, I do not have a belief in God, they're the same position as I am. Same exact thing. There's no difference, except that I'm labeling it agnostic because the position really is in philosophy agnostic, because the position in philosophy for atheism is that you hold the belief that gods don't exist, or you hold the belief that theism is false, something along those lines, either propositionally or ontologically. So since I don't have that belief, I don't call myself an atheist. So I don't believe that the atheist position is true, which is there are no gods, and I don't believe the theist position is true, that there are gods. So I am epistemically an atheist. But for all practical purposes, there's no difference between that. Yeah. I mean, an agnostic, and so there's no practical purpose between that and, you know, when you have somebody that says, well, I just don't believe the theist. Although I think mine's more honest position, because when I've talked to most atheists who say, I just don't believe gods exist, almost always you get them enough questions, they eventually will say, well, yeah, I believe there's no gods. Almost always. It's very rare when they don't.
Yeah, well, you and I have had that discussion, and I know.
Atheist.
Yes, I know. I do say there's no gods.
That's what I call her. I call her a proper atheist.
Yeah, I'm the proper atheist.
I have a lot of nicknames for you. It's weird.
You do, but it's all right.
And you can say them all on the show since it's explicit.
Well, she's the surrogate fucker.
Yes, I'm the surrogate fucker in the Great Debate community.
You know what that is, Morgan?
No.
Do you want to know what it is?
I'm beginning to wonder if we do.
It's not that bad. Because the Great Debate community is made up of theists and atheists and agnostics and some other positions in between. And we come across people that for various reasons are not comfortable with swearing. So if somebody doesn't want to swear on a hangout, I will happily do it for them.
So he's a surrogate fucker. So when somebody doesn't want to curse, we say, "Hey, heretic woman, can you say fuck for us?"
Fuck.
It's like the opposite of a bleep machine.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, Nicola just called me the fake Canadian. Oh yeah. Okay, Nicola. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the opposite of the bleeper. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I'm the opposite of the bleeper. I add the fucks. But we have fun in the Great Debate community. We do. But so Steve, what made you get involved in doing that? And how long
I've had YouTube now for like 5 years. I started it in 2013, but it was mostly just leaving comments on various videos. And then as soon as I started jumping in to these topics, I found them to be interesting. And there was a room that a lot of people used to go to, Nadia Vivette Chambers. She was a Linux programmer and transsexual, and she would have a lot of interesting people coming and having these conversations, but I don't think she knew how to leverage the conversations or the community. And so I basically wanted to get people together in a more structured type system to talk about these certain things, because I think they're worthy topics. I think that things relating to theology and philosophy and how it relates to science are very, very interesting topics. And so I just wanted to have a little bit more formalization of it. And so that was kind of the beginning steps to the Non Sequitur Show in some ways.
Cool.
And do you just limit it to philosophy and religion, or do you just debate? Is it just open for any kind of debate whatsoever?
Yeah, people freaking argue about anything.
Okay.
Oh, do we ever?
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. People will be like, listen, I don't agree with you, so let me argue with you. Okay, whatever, fine.
Okay, so it's open to just all kinds of debates, but mostly, I guess, philosophy, religion,
Philosophy,
science,
and theology for the most part. I mean, because if you think about it, almost everything can fall somewhere in there. I mean,
that's true.
If you disagree with somebody, it's usually because of those things. I mean, unless you're talking sports, maybe.
But well, even that philosophy plays a big part in sports. I find.
Tom Brady.
Sure. Well, I mean, people. Okay, think about it. When a player says, "Hey, I'm on a winning streak and I don't want to change my socks," there's superstition things there that could be related into beliefs. Philosophy.
Yeah, I definitely have some beliefs around sports because my school is known for messing up things in the dumbest possible way.
Oh no, Trav says Yanni or Laurel, debate me.
Oh, Laurel. Oh, you Yannius will burn in hell. I'm telling you right now. You are going to burn in hell.
No, it's because I'm young and beautiful.
It's Laurel. I will debate you.
And I have young ears.
Yeah, no,
I have young ears. I'm young and beautiful. Therefore, I hear Yanni.
I happen to listen not to just the recording first, but I inadvertently stumbled across an explanation first, in which they explain that it is actually both at the same time. So I can't say because I already knew that it was a trick.
It doesn't matter though. No, I understand that. I've listened to the explanation as well. But what do you hear?
Well, I hear Laurel because I know that Yanni was put on top of it, and that's not really what was predominant in the first place.
What do you hear, Kyle?
A human that hasn't listened to this shit.
Yeah, go listen real quick.
No,
it's Laurel. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I heard Laurel, but I kind of figured my take was tainted because I already knew what was going on. So, but whatever.
I tried to hear.
I will allow Morgan to have her fantasy that it's Yanni. She's prettier than me, so she wins.
We always blame it on being a millennial.
Yeah, so I know. It's because I'm a dumb millennial, and if I'd stopped buying this avocado toast, I would have retirement savings. Apparently.
Yeah, we need to have a discussion.
I love avocado toast, though. It's so delicious.
Can we do that sometime next month? We gotta get Morgan and the roving millennial, and we need millennials on because I got some issues with them.
We have a millennial on every night.
You're not. Well, yeah, I guess you would be a millennial, but you're like a guy millennial. Women millennials are weirder.
Mean.
Oh.
Have you listened to the what's her name? What is her name? The chick that goes by the millennial. I can't remember her name. She's a Trump supporter. The roaming millennial.
Oh.
Yeah, have you ever listened to her?
Oh, that is distressing.
Have you listened to her?
No, I try to avoid.
I'm shocked sometimes listening to her. I'm like, she can't be real. She can't be. No, but
probably a gimmick.
It might be.
No, I can believe it's real because there's all kinds of that kind of nonsense I see. But I mean, I'm in the deep south. But yeah, it's just every time I see that, I'm just like, fucking yikes.
There seems to be like an entitlement with these millennials. It's weird. It's like they have some ego thing where they think they're entitled to things, and I'm not sure where they get that from.
Well, I think that with the Trump supporters, there's the entitlement. I can definitely see that from what I have heard of the roaming millennial, but I think for the most part, like, I don't know, entitlement is very, like, I mean, I think one of the big distinctions is, say you ask one of my friends, well, what would you do if you won the lottery? Right. And you ask a baby boomer the same question, the answers are completely different. You ask one of my friends that, who isn't like a entitled ass bag, like, I guess a roaming millennial, and they'll say things like, oh, I would pay off my debt. I would, pay off my car.
Pay off your student loan. Like, that'd be number one.
Like, so I think it's the entitlement's not, I don't know. It depends on who you're talking to, I guess.
And we would like to say that we know Morgan does not eat Tide Pods, just for the record. So
that's also not even millennials.
I know, but they get blamed.
I didn't think that she did, but it's good to know. Yeah,
it's just idiots.
Yeah, I eat. I'll say what's the thing that I eat. I drink Windex. Toast. I drink Windex and eat too much avocado toast and snort Smarties or whatever.
And you don't do the compressed air where you like burn your skin with it, because that seems like a big thing now. And you don't put you don't put lip balm on your eyebrow, so it gives you a high on your eyelid. You heard that?
What the hell are you talking
Yeah, it's like
about,
it's like a beeswax type of lip balm or something, and you put it on your eyelid, and it gets you high. I don't know who discovers this shit. That's what I think is weird.
No, I do.
You're the first person to do that.
I do Anastasia Beverly Hills eyebrow pomade. It works like a dream.
Oh, you are millennial. Jesus. I bet you know the shade of your lip color too, don't you?
No.
Well, Trav was speculating that you got it from Marissa, so.
Oh, my lip color. Oh, yeah. I know. It's
it matches the shirt, so I figured she had to know the name of it.
No, it's called Daydreaming by NYX.
Daydreaming. There you go. Daydreaming.
They should sponsor me. Why am I giving them free ads?
Yeah, there you go. You're missing out there. You know, you should get a sponsor from them.
Hey, lip balm company, shoot us some.
I will. Yeah, I will.
There. So let's get on to where the hell did Non Sequitur come from, and why the fuck is it so awesome? Whoever wants to go with that.
The why the fuck is it so awesome question can come to me, because I would.
Well, you do the scheduling for the most part, so.
What was that?
I said
I didn't hear that you cut out.
I said you do the scheduling for the most part anyway. So I get
overall, I mean, I'll get people too, and I'll send them over to him, and he does a coordination of all that. Yeah.
It started out with. I used to watch. I was actually watching a Christopher Hitchens documentary one day, and not documentary, debate, excuse me, and it auto played. I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing something, but it auto played into a debate between G-Man and Reds, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, they have like amateur debates." This was probably a year ago, and I didn't know that that little corner of the internet existed where you could see just regular people engaging in debates. So I started getting addicted to that and watching everybody, and kind of following for the laughs Brett Keane. Yeah, I know, but I contacted Steve because I had an idea that I wanted to do a kind of a VH1 style behind the scenes of the people who do these debates, just these amateur guys that are every night having these discussions. And it kind of evolved from there into maybe we should do a podcast. So we started doing the podcast, and then we uploaded, just as a secondary thing, some of those episodes to YouTube. Never planned on doing YouTube at all, or not making a big deal about it. And it kind of caught on, and eventually it overtook what we were doing in the podcast thing. So the podcast kind of took second seat to the YouTube, and it has exploded a lot quicker than we thought, and it's humbling and kind of amazing to watch. It's really cool to see that kind of reaction. Some of the episodes are harder than others to get through.
Yes, I would say so.
But we are committed, and so yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a really remarkable thing that's happened.
And I think, like, for instance, one of your best shows created that lovely poster behind you about the how a pine tree cannot create an elephant. That was epic, and I think it's still your most viewed one, isn't it? Oh no,
yeah.
The other one with Aron took over.
The Aron and Jaronism has the most view time, but there's the Aron and Ken Hovind has the most watched.
Okay.
Well, I know it gets pushed in the one Kent Hovind group that I'm in, and yeah, I love.
Group?
Yes, she
I'm
is.
in like 3 of them. Don't ask why.
I have to ask.
I have no fucking clue why I'm in them, but I am.
Beth makes a hobby out of following nut jobs.
What is a Kent Hovind group anyway? Explain what is this?
It's basically a young Earth creationist group, and these people
Okay.
Allegedly, and I say allegedly for a reason, and I'll explain in a minute, follow Kent Hovind and his teachings. And
Hovindites.
So they're Hovindites. But the problem is, I actually posed a question based on Hovind's teachings, asking who all follows this. And I knew I wasn't going to get any responses, because if they said yes, they follow it, then they're following blindly because they claim other stuff in the group that they espouse that are totally anti-Hovind. So it's like a mixed bag, and part of the reason I follow Hovind more so than Ken Ham is I can because of Hovind's sovereign citizens leading, his tax protestation, and now with his compound down in Alabama, he is, in my opinion,
which group is this? Because I'm in a lot of the Hovind groups too. Is this the Can't the Ministry, the Man, the Myth, the Ministry?
He's a sovereign.
Okay. Love that group, by the way. And by the way, do you know the history of that group? Because that used to be a pro-Hovind group, but all the pro-Hovind eventually left or turned anti-Hovind.
Yeah, they
so it was just a bunch of skeptics that were left.
They actually have formed a new group that I can't seem to crack into. I don't know why.
Well, they might be able to see what other groups you're in.
This is so surreal.
Well, and then I have a blog, and I kind of
Hovinite camp.
A Hovinite camp, yes.
Hovind's a sovereign citizen.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's why he went to jail for the most part, because he tried.
Basically.
Yeah, he tried to tell the judge that it wasn't Kent Hovind the man; it was Kent Hovind, all capital letters, which is what he signed all the paperwork under,
or whatever.
And so he was trying to tell the judge that it wasn't him that owed the taxes. There's a guy, Kent Hovind, with all capital letters, and the judge said,
"Yeah."
Well, let me ask you a question. Are you Robert Beatty?
Rob and I are friends.
We know Robert. He's been on the show a few times.
Yeah.
Are you that level? Are you that committed?
No.
Well,
Robert's in a whole different league of his own.
I am, but I'm in a different league, because the tax issue is a important issue. I find that Hovind's cultish actions are even more concerning to me, and I think with the compound down in Alabama, he's bordering very closely to becoming another Jim Jones,
or
in
David
my opinion. Yes, and another David Koresh. And that's how I actually got interested in Hovind, and I made a post on my blog, which Robert responded to, and I was associated with Rob and a few other people through another podcast that's no longer in existence, and so he keeps me up to date on the sovereign tax issues. But I also I'm associated with Peter Riley, who is a tax writer who follows Kent as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But as Deb said, I follow a lot of the loons, Alex Jones being another one. I don't know why. I just have this propensity for like nut jobs. I think what it was is that a couple years ago, someone said to me, "Oh, they're just fringe," mostly responding to my take on Stephen L. Anderson, who likes to have the government execute gays, and I have a very large
problem with that.
And they were like, "Oh, that's just fringe." Well, this was in 2015, about a month or so before Kevin Swanson's rally that ended up with 3 of our presidential candidates in it. So here we have people like Ted Cruz, Bobby Jindal, Rick Perry, etc., endorsing a man who also wants to kill the gays.
Yeah, and Donald Trump's been on Alex Jones's show, so it's
kind of and I find a lot of these issues, especially within the debate community, whether it be on Great Debate or on Non Sequitur, which I haven't listened to any of your episodes yet. I just realized that we were talking on Sequitur tonight, but I went through some of your things. I think a lot of the topics that you hit relate to what I do, and there's a lot of other bloggers that do as well, because the whole dominionist the theocratic movement is, I've been fiddling with it since 2001.
Yeah.
Too long.
I don't know if you guys saw Dave had a message for you about you have the show scheduled wrong or something.
We have it scheduled at 10. So 9. Yeah, so that'd be 6 my time. So we got another 45 minutes.
Well, he said it was scheduled for 8, so
no, 9. So it's 45 minutes from now.
All right. Just so you know, they're producers in the chat. So
he produces, yeah.
I fixed it, Dave.
Because they're so cool. They've got 2 producers.
We couldn't do it without them. I'm telling you.
Your presentation is very slick. I gotta say that it looks really good.
They're amazing. Well, thank you. Even if you're not gonna my philosophy is even if you're not professional. I at least try to act the part. Fake it till you make it.
There you go.
And just throw out a bunch of words you don't know the meaning to, and it usually kind of placates the audience.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Steve, there was somebody. Who was it? Oh, Sean Henry says, I still can't see non-existent Steve.
I'm right here. I don't have it open. I'm actually have this open on here, but I have to open that. But anyways, yeah, no, I do exist. I've never had anybody say that I don't exist. I only have people say that they don't believe that I exist. Big difference.
Yeah, just difference. Yeah,
and most of the time I just spend mocking them because they don't understand how really bad that sounds when they say they don't believe that I exist.
Ladies, we even had Steve had a whole show on that the other day about whether he existed or not.
People enjoyed it.
It was fun. Yeah. We had fun. Yeah, he invited me because he figured I'd vouch for him. Which
I didn't want to have an crisis, you know. Well, hey, they don't believe you exist either, so.
Can't help it.
What do you mean you don't exist? Like,
don't.
Another time.
You don't want to know. Don't go down that hole. Don't go down that hole.
We'll be here all night, Morgan.
It's not that confusing. It's just certain people don't like the word belief, so they don't want to ever say the word belief. They equate it or
in a philosophical sense. I got it.
Right. Yeah. So they won't say that I believe that you exist. They'll say that I know you exist. I trust you exist. I think you exist, but they don't ever want to use that word belief, and they're just throwing away all epistemology. They're just all over it. And it's silly.
Argue about something else. Argue about something else that
like the definition of atheism.
Yeah,
which is weird because I'm actually a pragmatist. I should be more worried about philosophy that actually affects people, because a true pragmatist would say, how does this affect me if my argument's true? Vice, how does it affect you if your argument's true? That's what a true pragmatist would say. But I just like the discussion because I find it fascinating that people will say they don't believe that I exist. I find it to be
get a hobby, like learn to knit or go cook something. Go outside and get some fresh air.
You are gay.
When you start debating whether or not you believe somebody exists, you are in too deep and you need a break.
Yep. No, and it's Morgan. It's also a running joke in the great debate community that because people like to suck Steve into the whole definition.
Boy, I'm glad you added something to that.
and so
like, stop that mid-sentence. That a whole new dynamic.
It's like this running joke. It's like, oh shit, somebody mentioned that to Steve again. Oh fuck.
If P is equal to V minus the square root of
Kyle doesn't like propositional logic at all.
I don't either, but that that.
I don't think I can handle it at least this summer while I'm prepping for a bar exam, because earlier it was like, oh, I was supposed to learn about property. No memory of that class.
Real property.
Yeah.
I took
a law course in college. It was fun.
I just don't weigh myself down with things that don't affect my life during day to day.
Yeah, right now I can't afford that. We'll see if that changes.
Yeah,
well, you're taking the bar. It could be on anything, though, right? I mean, bar could be any court reformed. I mean, you're just not specifically in your field for the bar, is it?
No. It's just like basically here I have to relearn basically what I was supposed to have learned in law school, but from like my 1L classes, which were just like. I was just horrified the entire time. So it's like afterwards, I was just like, oh, my brain was like, oh, I don't need to remember this anymore. But I think that's what that happens to everybody.
I like my law class for the main reason of the fact that you only learn about so much of the case, right? Let's say, okay, here's the case, here's what the court said on it, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And you have to write you have to write on it, and you have to say you affirm it or you think it was a bad decision, and as long as you can argue the reasons, you got a decent grade. I got an A in the class, and even though some of the case was opposite of what actually happened, all he wanted to see is you can argue it in a coherent, consistent way.
Okay, I've never seen a law exam given that way. That's actually really interesting.
Yeah,
Usually
I enjoyed that way.
Like, here's a fact pattern. This is your client. What are your options? What do you tell them? Basically, kind of thing. Or if it's like sometimes in 1L classes, it would be like who has a better argument, the defendant or the plaintiff, and you can kind of argue it either way. But I've never been given like a case and then been
we
like,
had the case. Yeah, it'd be a regular case and
decision.
Awesome.
Plead out.
Jury nullification, man. Jury nullification. That's the way to go.
I went back and took HR management a few years ago, and we had to do an employment law class, and we actually had to argue we were given a case study, and we actually had to argue our client's case to the law professor, and she had to judge whether we presented the case well enough or not.
This reminds me, we're doing something cool starting tomorrow that I think you'll find interesting. We're having the beta version of Debate Roulette, where we have we're gonna pick a topic and put it out in the chat, but you won't know the topic until the show starts, and then you press 1 or 2 depending on which side of the argument that you're on. So if you agree, you press 1. If you disagree, you press 2. And then from those 2 groups, somebody at random is chosen, and we bring both those 2 people into the show, and they debate that topic.
Jury nullification, is it a legit tactic? That'd be a good discussion.
Well, you're not allowed to tell the jury about jury nullification.
But a judge can allow it, and he can. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't tell the jury directly about jury nullification, but you can argue for the jury nullification, and then a judge can either sustain it or not. Correct?
No, you're not allowed to mention that at all. And if you mention
you can't mention it, but you can argue saying that the jury can set aside it, but you just can't call it jury nullification. There are ways of arguing it in certain course-rooms, are there not?
They don't tend to like it, and if they declare a mistrial, usually
it's up to the judge. So is it not?
Well, in a court of equity, it is, but for as far as that goes, it's like, I don't know, you try not to piss off a judge too much, and if they declare a mistrial, that's a great way to start your ass. That's a great way to get on the judge's bad side, and you have to appear before that judge usually multiple times. So that's what I've learned.
You're the lawyer that I hate. Get out of my courtroom, right?
Yeah, you don't want the next case him being like, "Oh, I remember your ass," and then not in a good way. So yeah, you
not a good carefully. I have a question from Mrs. D in the chat. They want to know, where did the non sequitur name come from?
That's a good question.
Informal logic.
I Googled debate terms and chose the one that sounded the coolest.
And, you know what's funny is, and I was out today, and I met some guy on the bus that lives around here, and he asked for my contact info, and I gave it to him, and I told him, I do a show called the Non Sequitur Show, and he's like, "What does that mean?" I'm like, that explained what non sequitur was. So I was kind of surprised, because I figured most people at least know what a non sequitur is, but I'm finding out that's
it means it does not follow, and that's kind of our tagline. It never follows, and no show follows the one before.
They're really good at rabbit holes.
You never know what you're going to get.
You get a lot of cool wordplay out of it too, like our symbol, the nun. That's non sequitur. So you get a lot of cool wordplay usage out of it as well. It just wound up working.
Your website, Non Sec Show, which to me is like, you're not having sex on your show.
This is true.
Not yet, but season 2,
maybe next month. You never know what you're going to get, right?
Get those.
We had a pee drinker on, so you know what?
Oh,
you're only as good as your last show.
Yeah.
Morgan's just like, oh, now I know I don't watch you guys.
And it's like, I don't know. It's like, were you hosting a My Strange Addiction? Like, what is?
No, this guy is a
Something
sovereign
like that.
citizen, flat earther, urine therapy advocate.
All those words just
How could we
blew
say
my
no?
mind.
How could we say no?
Yeah, I mean, how do you turn that down? That's like the trifecta of what the fuck.
That's
Well,
an obligation right there.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, you guys have gotten some interesting folks. You got Mad Mike on,
That was cool.
the flat earther guy who was shooting himself into the atmosphere, and that was interesting. He seemed a lot saner than I thought he would be.
He was a
Very
nice
nice
guy.
Very
Yeah.
nice guy.
I'm glad nothing happened to him. He walked away unscathed from his launch. Minor
Trav-
stuff.
Trev says sheesh, and I thought shooting coffee up your ass was bad enough.
Oh, that's because you haven't tried it, Trav.
Hold on to your
Go
hat.
look for Cybabe's new meme from today. It was a urine therapy one, and this I don't know if it was a guy or a girl on the meme was
Oh,
like,
is that the one putting it in their eyes?
I don't
their
like to call
eye.
it that because there's no therapeutic value for it, and I hate
And
calling it
it's like he's
therapy.
like
There's nothing therapeutic about it.
No,
yeah,
there isn't.
there's he's like, or she, I don't know why my eyes are so irritated and all this pus is coming out. It's like, dude,
Bacteria, maybe.
it's like, what do you
Ocular
think?
conjunctivitis?
Oh, and then it was 9-day aged. Maybe I'll just try fresh urine instead. And I'm thinking, and I'm working on a piece on urine therapy that I'm hopefully gonna, once I figure this computer out.
By the way, Cirrus the Skeptic had a video just out on why drinking urine is not a good idea.
I'm so
yeah.
mad that I learned this was a thing. I wish I could go back to 5 minutes before when I didn't know that this was a thing.
Yeah, and to Trev's comment, the coffee up your ass is basically part of Gershon therapy for cancer treatment.
Oh, yay. And I know, I forget you, Steve, you did something about MMS at one point, didn't you?
No, that was the Geek Room.
Oh, okay. That was
Frankie did the MMS.
That's also one I have quite a bit put out on MMS. But
yeah.
It's gone quiet since Rivera's gone underground, so she's supposedly out of MMS now.
Aw, too bad. So
now
what?
She's in the GMAF. Just as bad.
So what would you two say your favorite episode has been so far? Do you have one?
I would say mine would be, well, it's hard to pick, but
yeah, you
I would say
these.
Any of the history people,
right?
Dr. Bowen, Bernard Morel, Maggie Bryson, those to me are my favorite shows where you can actually have a conversation. And Dr. Stephen DeMatte, those are all interesting guests. They're scholars, so they kind of take you back in time and walk through different aspects of the Bible, but it's debunking the Bible, but doing it in a way where you learn something and you walk away kind of a lot more informed than you went into the show. It's the direct opposite of any of our flat earth streams where you
lose brain cells.
You know, we kind of try to keep the balance of IQ. Some shows take away, some shows give. So we kind of stack our shows that way. So
the idea is that the viewer comes out with roughly the same amount of brain.
Yeah, by the end of the week, you're out of balance. Like
okay. You
You're,
might have a deficit for a day or so after a flat earth show, but
if you're not drooling after one of our shows every so often, something's seriously wrong.
Right.
You'd be like, yeah, you cringe at the level of stupidity.
So what's your favorite, Steve?
I got to go with the old chestnut with Aron and Kent. I mean, that was Kent got his comeuppance, and it's been a long time coming. And it was because he wasn't allowed to gish gallop. Because when he's been on my channel, having a debate with like King Crocoduck or Bill Ludlow, who both of them did excellent job. I mean, and Ned obviously as well. Negation of P did a wonderful job. Yeah. But when Kent gets equal time, I think it distracts from the ability to really decimate his arguments. And so this particular case, he wasn't afforded all that, and here's going to be the topic, discuss the topic. He wasn't able to talk about the topic, and I think a lot of them noticed that. I think a lot of his own followers said, hey, maybe Kent doesn't really know much about this topic. He got a lot of backlash for that. He really did.
Well, I think with someone like Kent, you have to avoid the gish gallop, because Kent and Kenham does it as well. So does Comfort, is that they rely on the gish gallop by throwing out so many alleged problems with evolution that there is no way in hell even someone highly educated like Aron or even King Crocoduck could even hit every one of those topics in a relevant way that you're going to take away that, no, it's not a problem. I call it the 10-to-1 ratio. It takes you 10 pages to debunk one fucking sentence.
Yeah, William Lane Craig does that as well, too. He'd be like, okay, well, my opponent never got to this because, he didn't know how to answer it. And he'll do that right at the very end during closing statements. And I find it to be a very dishonest tactic.
Yeah.
We were actually taught that in school. William Lane was an adjunct professor where I went to college. We were actually taught to do that.
She was a California State Assemblywoman. She was one of my adjunct professors.
Beth went to seminary.
She's not seminary. I went to a Christian college. I was going into the ministry, but I never made it to seminary.
Yeah, because she kind of figured shit out first. Unfortunately,
yeah, I had to read Thomas Paine for a philosophy class in a Christian college, and that was like that started.
No, you didn't have to read Aquinas or.
Oh yeah, I've read Aquinas. I've read Origin. I've read.
I've been reading Dewey lately. Are you familiar with John Dewey?
Oh yeah, I had him in my education. Yeah, mostly for education.
Yeah. Well, Kyle says you guys got to go soon because you guys have a show to do. Oddly enough. So what's on tap for tonight, fellas?
Scientology. Hailsy new.
One of our favorite topics.
We're going to be getting e-metered.
Oh, I want to play with an e-meter so bad. I think I can totally.
It wouldn't be that hard to make. I made something similar.
Well, make me one and ship it to me, damn it.
Well, Radio Shack's no longer a thing, but there all it is a Galvin meter, so it measures electrical resistance, and so
like basically, I'm sure
you use a 555 timer probably for a circuit like that.
I'm
positive lifting up in the air when he does that.
Those are fun to make too, though. That'd be like a Van de Graaff generator. There's a guy named Strike who has a channel, wonderful channel, and he's really heavy into that stuff. And he makes these really cool Van de Graaff generators and Tesla coils, and he gets like arcs, man. Hail Xenu.
All right. Well, that sounds like fun. We'll have to talk sometime because we have a friend of the show, Pete Griffiths over in Ireland, who's he's got quite the history with the church. He's actually one of the few people that sued them and won.
Yeah, they're the most litigious organization on the planet.
Yes.
And I'm looking for a Muslim.
Yes, for me.
Right now. Yes. So that is in the works too.
You want to wait? You want an ex-Muslim Scientologist?
No, I want to debate a Muslim, like an actual
current Muslim.
Oh well, I mean, I know a couple. I mean,
I've run into loads of them, but every time I say come on my show and debate this, they're suddenly clam up.
That's the trick.
Just don't get a guy named Marshall Mathers. If he ever messages you,
no.
Trust me on that one.
This is true. This is
a bad
true.
mistake.
Well, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for having us on.
Definitely.
Make sure you're inviting us on.
One or both of you would like to tell everybody where they can find your various projects.
Don't. Just don't. We're doing you a favor. If you haven't came across this yet, don't.
Be safe. Go somewhere else. Once you appear in that darkness, it starts peering back at you. So.
Yeah. And
then you might find out that Steve actually exists too. So and
that pine trees and elephants can't mate.
Yes.
You can go to Non Sec Show. That's NONSEQ show.com/schedule to find out our stream schedule. Right now, it's every day until the middle of June.
I think we have Memorial Day off, don't we?
Yes, we do have Memorial Day off.
One day.
One day. But yeah, as long as we keep getting interesting guests, we'll keep streaming every day. So keep it coming. But like I said, if you haven't discovered us yet and you're not already on that bandwagon, do yourself a favor and go watch Blue's Clues reruns. I'm telling you, it will be a lot better on your mentality.
And Steve, you want to tell them where they can get with the following the Great Debate community?
Yeah, you can obviously www.nonsecshow.com or nonsecshow.com, and then also I have my own channel, Steve McRae, and I also have the Great Debate community channel, which is kind of a community channel that anybody that wants to be a manager can go host shows, and anybody who starts new shows or starts to get into the community that wants to get leg up, we'll be more than happy to help them. People that usually come in will start off anywhere between 200 to 1,000 subs within a matter of a month or two, just because there's just so many people involved in all this stuff. And if it's a good channel, then they should get that many subs pretty quickly. So we want to give them a leg up. And there's been a lot of new people coming in to the skeptic type community as well. I mean, Cirrus is new, and the goddess Iowin, and of course you have the not really old people, but Brilliant Doubt, and obviously Holy Kool-Aid, and Genetically Modified Skeptic, and all those from the Faithless Forum. So Shannon Q, Anti-Ordinary, Prophet Azad. I mean, there's lists is endless, and so I think that the group now is epically going to be stronger than it was like 10 years ago when you had Dusty and that group. I think that all that is just a precursor to what the skeptic community can be now, and I think they're a lot more invitive as well. They're much more inclusive, so I think that kind of helps.
Cool. By the way, 0132 says, "What the fuck am I supposed to do on Memorial Day, you slackers?" I'm gonna be bored as fuck that day.
I
might enjoy life.
Great. Yeah, go outside for a change. Shut down your computer. I mean, I do that every so often too. I completely turn off everything.
You remember the one time that happened and everybody was like, "Where the fuck?"
I know.
Somebody to your house.
But look. Wait. With all fairness, I had posted one time. Look, I'm going to be unavailable for like 24 hours or whatever it was, and people mocked the shit out of me, and it was funny. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. But I said, okay, people are just going to mock me. So the next time I did it, I had their fucking brother trying to get a hold of me. They sent a girl to my house to check on me, and she's freaking hot, and here I am. Yeah, I was, dude, but I mean, I had not. I just woke up. I was in pajamas, and my roommate's like, "Hey, there's this girl at the door for you," and I'm like, "Who the hell is this chick?" And I'm like, "Holy shit, she's hot. Who is this person?" And I realized who it was, and I'm like, "Ooh, okay."
Moral of the story, kids. Let somebody know next time you, especially if you have a co-host for a show, let your co-host know that you're going MIA for a couple of days.
Well, like I said, I usually did, but nobody cared. They were all mocking me when I did. So,
well, obviously they cared because, anyways.
Hey, you know what? Hey, it's the first time I had a hot chick in my house for a long time, so it was worth it.
They don't exist now anyway, so.
They even started a live hangout to find out where you were.
They did. Bullinator started a live hangout on the Great Debate going, "Where's Steve?" I was like, really? Oh my goodness! And yet people think I don't exist. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a little ironic, actually,
isn't it? Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, we're gonna talk for a little bit longer, but you two can bugger off and go to your.
We're gonna go bugger off.
Goodbye, ladies. Thank you for a fabulous evening.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you, ladies.
Enjoy learning about Xenu and Thetans and all that fun stuff.
Hail Xenu.
My e-meter's going off.
Hail
Good night.
Oh shit, those two are fun. We didn't even get into the after show with Aron Ra when after Ken Hovind. Oh fuck, Morgan, have you ever heard of a guy named G-Man?
I've heard of him. I'm trying to place it, but I have heard the name several mentioned.
So he's been on YouTube for a number of years. He's a Christian.
Oh yeah, it's that Christian guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and he always wears the Jesus hat. Yeah. And he's like terrible. Like his idea of apologetics is just beyond ridiculous. And he's like, "Oh, atheists don't actually exist because we can't actually be atheists because of something I forget." But he had always wanted to talk to Aron, and Aron, well, they had actually interacted once or twice before, but Aron sees so many people that he just didn't remember.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand that. So we were all having the after show after Ken Hovind, and Steve was like, "Hey, G-Man, we're just sitting around hanging out with Aron. Why don't you come in and say hello to the hangout?" And there was like, I don't know, 8 or 10 people in there. So G-Man comes in, and he just immediately goes on the attack. And we're just like, we you know, we just thought you were just going to come in and say hi and chat. But he went right for the, like, you know, how can you not believe in God shit? And Aron was laughing his head off. And at one point, it came up that humans are animals. And of course, G-Man is a young earth creationist who doesn't believe in evolution. So he got all offended that people were saying that he was an animal. And then Aron said something about his parents being animals, and that really made him mad. And he, excuse me, he gets so mad, he picks up his poor cat off the ground and puts his cat like right up in the camera and starts going on about is his cat an animal too? Because if his cat's an animal and he owns the animal, then that means that it's slavery because it's animals owning animals and all this shit. And which was funny enough, but the look on the cat's face was just like, because he had put the cat right up in the camera, and the cat had eyes like saucers.
It was like, leave me out of this. What's happening?
Yeah. The cat was like, save me. And it was hilarious. And somebody,
like Gilmore's horse trying to run away.
Yes. And somebody screenshotted this. And they put the screenshot up of the cat up in the screen with the big saucer eyes. And you know how you see our little thumbnails right now? Well, there's like a string of them because, like I said, there was like 10 or so people in there. And Aron's was in the corner. And Aron, in his little thumbnail, had his head thrown back. It was just like, ah, laughing his head off. And at one point, like, G-Man's going on about his, you know, creationism and all this shit. And at one point, Aron, he just says, "You're just not real. You can't be real. There's no way you're a real person." It was just the funniest shit ever. We had a really good. And then G-Man got angry because everybody was laughing. And he's like, "I didn't come in here to get laughed at." And then he blocked everybody in the room so that none of us could see him anymore. And then he left. So.
Jeez.
Oh.
And this was in the Great Debate community?
Yes. Because a lot of the times when Non Sequitur has a big show, the Great Debate community or Steve's channel will host an after show. So any of the guests who are still available will come, and members of the community will pop in, or, you know, if you message Steve or whatever, he'll send you a link usually if there's room. So,
well, that's what I like about, you know, the whole setup being associated with the Great Debate community in a roundabout way is that if the topic is, for lack of a better word, important enough, the conversation continues. And the fact that he has his guests, if they're available, come on, you know, like I caught part of the G-Man and Aron Ra one, because if I remember correctly, you sent me the link because you were like, you have got to hear this, because this whole, well, I'm not a big fan of philosophy being used in the way it's being used in some points.
Yeah, me neither.
In the debates, it does have its purposes, and I like early classical philosophy like Plato and shit like that. But it comes down to, especially with somebody like G-Man or Sci 10, I think Matt Slicks also does this, and Hovind and Ham both do it. I know Ray Comfort does, is definitions.
Yes.
And a lot of times, a lot of that'll come out in the after show. And I don't do real well with the listening to a debate live because I just can't separate out everything with my brain being the way it is now. So it's kind of hard. So I'll listen to bits and pieces along the way, and it's just so funny because it's the same arguments over and over on definitions. You can't be an atheist because in order to disbelieve, you have to believe, and all this other bullshit. It's funny, or
oh yeah.
I know with some atheists, and I happen to be one of them, the whole notion of being an agnostic. Now, I mean, I understand, I'll use Steve as an example. I understand his explanation, but for me, it just doesn't jive. But I am also an atheist that denies the existence of God. I don't say I don't believe. I deny that God even exists, or any God.
Yeah.
So it is a matter of definition. And I know I was in one debate where, not a debate, but conversation on Facebook. And I'm sitting there trying to, explain to this person why I think the way I do. And like, it was like, you could tell he wanted to keep his so-called philosophical view of definitions. Deb's familiar with this person. You know what I'm talking about. And any conversation, that's what it devolves into. It's just a matter of definitions. And
yeah,
if you look in a dictionary, you'll have like 3 or 4 definitions. Generally, the first definition is what we go by.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you explain why. And it's like, no, he jumps automatically down to the 3rd or 4th definition and says, well, it's like, no, that's not the general usage of the term.
Yeah.
It's very
well, it's like
annoying.
with me, I say I'm an atheist, even though it's like, as of now, I'm like, well, I'm one of those people that, I'm always willing to kind of change my mind about things, but it's like, as of now, I have no evidence for God, so I'm an atheist because most likely than not, there's no God. Like, but I still call myself an atheist, even though some people would be like, technically, you're an agnostic, and I'm like, well, you don't get to. I'm an atheist because, more likely than not. But if you want to get semantic with me, then I guess your definition, sure, but
that's what it comes down to. At least a couple of people that I've had discussions with, it's an argument of semantics, and they're doing it intentionally. It's not like I've been in a conversation with a guy who it was blatantly obvious that he was ELS. I mean, English was not his native language, although he was fairly good. There were a few things, and so I will get semantic because I know he's not understanding the American usage of. So there's a time and a place for it, but you take people like G-Man, like, Saitan, although he's been fairly quiet from what I've seen.
There's the Slickster.
Yeah, and
there's our friend from the crazy debate group.
Yeah, and it's funny because these are, it's like I've said to Deb, and I probably have said to you, is that in apologetics, there's nothing new. It's like I said to the one guy, I said, you're using a fucking tactic from 1940s. Like when they bring up, like, for an example, the Kalam cosmological argument. My God, that's fucking 1,000 years old.
Yeah, or the junkyard fallacy. They just make it into a different example. Like sometimes it's an airplane, sometimes it's a computer program, sometimes they'll just change it to whatever. They'll be like, "Oh, this is a new apologetic," and it's like, no, I was taught the same apologetic in my Christian worldview class when I was a senior in high school. Like, you just made it into a computer program instead of like a boat or whatever.
The time my Muslim stalker guy, he sent me this, he's like, oh, I have the thing that you can't possibly deny, that God exists, and this will prove to you I'll beyond a shadow of a doubt, and he was all excited, and he sent me this document, and I'm like, this is arguments I've heard like 50 million times, buddy. Like, what makes you think this is new? And he got all disappointed and stuff. He
got really bent out of shape. He's like, no, this isn't. I remember that conversation. I remember who you're talking about. It's like, no. And it's like we mentioned William Lane Craig on the show. It's like, I literally was taught in one of my classes when I was in college, and the tactics that, you know, like William Lane Craig uses. He actually taught the Gish Gallop.
Yeah.
And why we use it and how to use it. And it's like, but I mean, and you figure, you know, Dwayne Gish, that was what, 67-ish he came out with that. I was only 3 then, but it's
yeah, but still, you might as well be like, "Hey guys, be intellectually dishonest to throw off your opponent."
That's the
like
thing,
it's
and I think
awful.
this is why shows like Non Sequitur and the Great Debate Community are important, even though as Kyle said, yeah, I think what his name was for a minute. As Kyle said, I mean, it's they're not always getting big name per se, but
they're looking for people who are good and knowledgeable about the topic. So sometimes those are quote big names, and sometimes those are obscure academic people that have lots of letters, but nobody knows who they are.
Yeah.
And that's
well, like, well, I compare Deb and I all the time. Like, I think Deb's a really good debater. And not only in writing, she does well, you know, verbally. And I know I'm too much of a hothead, and I get frustrated very easily because I'm like, you stupid fucking moron. You know, that's what I want to say in a debate, and I really can't do that. So I do better in written debates because I can think about what I want to say without
you can step away and
I can step away, go punch my wall, which I don't do anymore, and or talk to my cat, which I do quite a bit. And then go back to, but I don't think I might a verbal debate I could never do. And the people that can do it, whether you're a theist or an atheist or whatever flavor you are, you know, I give you kudos, because I personally, for me, I don't have the patience. So I do watch some debates, but not
it depends on the topic for me what my reaction is, because if it's like I'm arguing with somebody who is, you know, a flat earther, or who's like trans people don't exist or something like that, it's just I'm like, I don't find any value in arguing with you. And and it's like you, Beth, like I'll come at them and I'll be like, you're a fucking idiot, get out of my face. But then like if it's something like, I don't know, economic policy or something, like I can debate that. But when it's something like as extreme as like flat earthers or like something like that, I'm just like, no, I can't deal with it.
That's why it surprises even me that I'm still in the Hovind groups I'm in, because I'm sorry, but talking to young Earth creationists are just, it's a waste of time. I would much rather spend an hour or 2 hours talking to you about recent Supreme Court cases. I find that much more intellectually stimulating. But like, well, flat earthers specifically, they get so far out into left field with physics and all this other garbage. I don't want to spend, not that I don't want to, but I don't want to spend the time where I have to find the proper response. Now you want to debate
on something so simple like the shape of the earth that we all know. Like it's
like even evolution. Like I know the very basic that evolution is change over time. I understand that, you know, mutations in the right environment can be favorable or they may not be favorable, and that was gets carried forward and yada yada yada. Like I get the basics, but when you get some of these anti-evolutionists that have glommed on to a lot of big name pseudoscience or big worded pseudoscience stuff, I know it's wrong, but I don't have the scientific background to articulate why it's wrong in a way that makes sense when they're throwing all these big words and concepts at me that like I say, I know on the basics why it's wrong, but I can't speak to like that specific biological process that they're talking about. That's when I get kind of mired up, because to me, there's no need to even get remotely that technical about it because you lost at the basic part. Well,
but I had one guy, he glommed onto some pseudoscience bullshit that I knew had been debunked, for lack of a better word, by one of the bloggers I happen to follow. So I sent a link, and this guy is a scientist by trade. I mean, so it's not like, me writing this article. And he's like, well, explain it in your own words. I'm like, it took him 10 fucking pages to explain it. I'm not going to try to. And he's like, well, this reference, it's like, seriously? This is an explanation why you are wrong. I can't make it any simpler.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So last week, I was in Calgary, Alberta, which was a lot of fun. I was at the Alberta Secular Conference, and I've never been west before, so I've finally been west somewhere. Yay. I was like, yeah, Nashville's the furthest west I've ever been, and that ain't remotely west. So yeah. But
isn't Milwaukee further west?
Not quite. I think looking at the map, I think Nashville edges it out just slightly.
Okay.
It's just a smidge. But yeah. But no, and I got to meet Dallin. Well, I met Dallin here because he actually ended up coming here before, but I got to hang out with Dallin for the weekend and sleep on his sofa and all that fun stuff, and said hello to Christine Schalska, who's been on the show before, and Allie and Elishba, who were speaking out there at the conference, so that was kind of cool. But I learned quite a bit about Alberta politics, and holy fuck.
Does that have anything to do with the Tom Ford stuff I keep hearing? Or
no, you're hearing about Doug Ford.
Doug Ford, that's right. Tom Ford was the one that smoked crack.
Rob Ford was the one that smoked crack.
Tom Ford's a designer. Jesus.
That's okay. Maybe he smokes crack. I don't know. But...
Yeah, please, no. Tom Ford does not smoke crack. Do not sue me, please. Jesus.
No, Doug Ford is in my fucking province. Yay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately you missed last show because we did Ontario politics. And we went through all the crazy political parties that were registered in Ontario.
Yeah, because I've been following that, and I was trying to keep up, and it's just like, what the hell is happening to Canada? Like,
I'm scared because
I'm scared for y'all, because usually I'm like, Canada's reasonable, and then they're like, hold my beer, and I'm like, can you not?
I don't want anyone to hold the beer. Rob Ford's dead, but Doug Ford is just a train wreck. He is literally Trump light.
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
He is as stupid as Trump. And I shit you not, I'm in a group for one of the local towns, not my town, but one over. And it's the town that we usually have our weekly atheist meetup in.
Yeah. And
some lady in the group, so our premier right now, which would be like a governor, and I'm not sure exactly why, but a lot of people just hate her. She just, I don't know, partly because our hydro bills have gone up a lot and they blame her, which I'm not convinced.
That's kind of dumb.
I'm not convinced that's really her fault, but whatever. A lot of people hate her. So in this group, a woman posted the premier's name is Kathleen Wynne. It was like a anti-Kathleen Wynne meme something. And she said something pro Ford. And I just said, are you crazy? Do you really want anything like Trump light near our property?
God, it's literally like Clinton and Trump.
Oh, get this. And she comes back with, of course I do. He tells it like it is, and he's gonna get rid of corruption. And I was like,
well, if he uses Trump as a example, you guys are in for a lot of hurt.
He does not tell it like it is. He's just racist, and people like it.
I know.
That's what it is. Like, he doesn't tell it like it is, because it's not the way he says. Reality does not work like he says it does.
I was mortified by this woman. I'm like, that is like straight up Trump talking points from 2015. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, they're like, oh, I may not agree with them, because it's a way for people to hide behind their racism and bigotry, because they can then say, oh, well, I don't necessarily agree with him, but I like how he talks, or he tells it like it is. And it's like, no, you do agree with him, and you're just trying to act like you're not a racist piece of shit. Like,
so I gave a bunch of reasons why Ford is a piece of shit, and she comes back with, oh, those sound like CNN talking points.
Oh my God, fake news.
I know. And I was like, I don't watch fucking CNN. And she's like, oh, well, that's even worse. And then I said something about, it's worse. She said it was worse because I knew all of the quote talking points without watching it. I guess that was worse. I don't know.
And CNN, they do news. They don't even have like opinion shows.
I know.
Like,
but then, so get this. So she's basically admonishing me for just quote following what media says, right?
Oh God, one of those.
And but it gets better. So, and I was like, no, I pay attention to what the dumbass actually says. You know, like it doesn't matter what media outlet it comes from. If there's video of the guy saying it, he fucking said it. Right.
Yeah, it's like the people who get mad. They're like, oh, well, you showed a video clip of me saying what I said. And then it's like, yeah, that's how.
So it gets better because I'm like, oh, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, blah, blah, blah. And I said something about the press, and she's like, well, I'm the press. I was a reporter for blah, blah paper. I'm like, oh, that's rich. So you're the press admonishing me for listening to the press. What the fuck planet are you from? And then she just did the old, I'm done. Stop talking to me.
Well, you don't follow you
don't follow her press.
Yeah, it's like Fox News. It's like, oh, well, you don't watch, real news. I watch Fox, so I know what's really going on, kind of attitude that people have. And you just follow the mainstream media when it's really like Fox News is the #1 news network. You don't get more mainstream media than that. Like, and also we don't have, on the same side, we don't have a Democratic talking points news station. Like MSNBC is more liberal. They have opinion shows like Rachel Maddow and things like that. And it's like, but they're not giving out Democratic Party talking points. You know what I'm saying? Like Fox News is. They're not like,
here's a list of things,
a propaganda thing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here's a list of things you should say to somebody who criticizes Trump. Like, no.
It's like the other day I had posted, last I checked, members of MS-13, while vile in some regards, are still human beings and not animals, referring to Trump's faux pas, which if you listen to the entire clip, you could interpret it as...
By the way, if at any point you think you hear gunshots, the fireworks just started because... it's Queen Victoria's birthday.
Oh, yes.
It's a holiday here. So I'm just going to say, because the window's open behind me, and I'm like, wow, that's awful loud. I don't have drive-bys yet in my neighborhood. So,
but it was referring to Trump's comment about MS-13. And if you listen to the entire clip where it's not cut off and he goes on to say something about MS-13, you could interpret it to mean MS-13. And I just, basically but I had someone respond to me and saying, well, you're an atheist. Don't you think all humans are animals? And I'm like, no, not in a general sense.
Not in a behavioral, because the context was behavioral.
Yeah, and it's to dehumanize, to say they are not human, and to separate that behavior from what humans are capable of.
Yeah, this person goes on, he goes, I also noticed in one report that some politicians critical of Trump's use the term, accuse Trump of being an animal, and I've probably have done it myself. I know I've probably called him a pig. And, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, so I came back, I said, all Mexicans are rapists, another Trump thing. I came back with, Charlottesville, oh, there were fine people on both sides. We all know, grab them by the pussy, and we could, shithole countries, yada, yada, yada. And that's where I was going. It's not just this one statement that he made. He has a history
and
of
he's even said DACA members, he's conflated people who are protected, DACA members, he's conflated people who are protected under DACA with members of MS-13.
Oh, yeah.
And so it implies that he thinks all Hispanics are members of MS-13, and so therefore all Hispanics are animals. Like, you have to look at the context of how he is, what his supporters are doing, and it's that typical thing where people will give that line where they communicate what they really mean to their audience, which in this case would be the Trump base, but then they try and get enough plausible deniability so when anybody calls them out on it who's not a member of that intended audience, and they can say, oh, no, I was just talking about MS-13, which even then, members of MS-13, they're human, and I think it does a disservice to say they're not human, because then we can kind of say, like, oh, well, we don't need to look at what causes people to go into
exactly
MS-13. We don't need to look at them as people. We can just do whatever the fuck we want to, because they're not people. And that's how we got internment camps. That's how, and who knows, you might start pulling in people who, again, aren't MS-13, that are DACA or just immigrants. Like,
well, the point I was going for is related to yours, is that when you start calling, yes, MS-13 can be some very vile and crass individuals. But when you dehumanize them, you just gave them an excuse for their behavior. But he goes, well, I've only caught some of the controversy over Trump's animal reference, and it seems to me to have been way overplayed by the media, blah, 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 blah. And then he goes, basically admitted that he is not maybe paying attention or doesn't recall some of the other statements. And I'm thinking, okay, you're bitching about the fact that I say we shouldn't be calling people animals, okay? And I'm guilty of it. But you don't
but
really...
the president.
And going to the whole thing about with the DACA things, one of my friends posted a article relating to deport a dreamer. ICE claimed that he was affiliated with MS-13. In fact, I think you liked this post. But it's just like, and it's like, that's the type of crap that's now traveling.
And he wasn't at all. And ICE completely lied about it. But the judge, thankfully, because immigration judges, they often have a very, very heavy caseload. And so they don't have the time to put, what you would hope that a judge would put the time and effort into to examine the case. But thankfully, this judge caught them and was like, no, you are a bunch of liars. And he admonished them and said, this is just absolutely, like, he's like, this is criminal. He basically called ICE a bunch of criminals and was like, you are perpetuating like fraud, basically, on the court. And, it was absolutely like the judge was he had ripped ICE apart. But thankfully, they were caught in that case, but it makes me wonder, like, how many people are going to slip through the cracks? How much evidence could they plant? Because immigration court does work differently than a typical court. So you don't have as much rights, you don't have as much protections, and especially if you're not a citizen. And again, it's just their caseload so heavy, and it's very disturbing to see this. And then also John Kelly's statements, John Kelly, who's supposedly the adult in the room, saying things like, oh, well, the immigrant kids, they'll go into foster care or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, it's just like going
in military bases.
How many people are slipping through the cracks, although not immigration related? There was this report I read today about a guy who was sentenced when he was 14 years old for, I believe, murder. I don't remember if it was murder or manslaughter. And he's now 31 or 34, and he just won his freedom because the cop in charge of his case basically lied and framed him. And even the judge said what happened was total bullshit, but yet there's no, from the state, there's no, apology. They're not accepting that this cop was dirty, even though he's been proven, I guess, in the past to some degree. I don't know if it's gone through the courts or anything, to be a dirty cop. It's like, how many people are we you know, especially with the Dreamers, especially with DACA, immigration. I mean, when you dehumanize, like with MS-13, I mean, how... I mean, you can't, I mean, not only just them, but you have, you know, the dehumanization of the LGBT community, especially the transgenders. I mean, we had a woman running for Congress just the other day make a video in a Denny's harassing
some woman in the bathroom.
In the bathroom, and you can hear on the video where the woman in the stall says, "You're invading my privacy," and this wannabe congressperson, bitch. I'd use a different word, but I probably would get a lot of backlash for it. So
I'll go as far as cunt on that one.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's the word I was gonna say. It's like, no, you're invading my privacy. I'm a woman and some other bullshit.
But isn't an argument that trans people shouldn't be in the bathroom because it's invading their privacy, and yet this woman is like doing the same fucking thing?
Today.
Yes,
someone brought that out today, and it's like,
or they don't want trans people in a bathroom because they're gonna harass someone. Who the fuck is harassing anybody in the goddamn bathroom?
And what's funny is this is in California, which has a law stating if it's a single-use stalled bathroom that it's gender neutral.
Yeah,
okay.
it makes sense, yeah.
And well, Denny's came out today apologizing for it, although I find their statement a little wishy-washy. But their business, well, not late. It's only been a couple days, and I mean, they because they don't know yet if there's going to be any legal action. They probably shouldn't say too much, but it's like, you know, here's someone running for Congress. One of her platform is to get rid of this gender neutral law, and it's like, you bitch about invading privacy. What the fuck are you doing?
Oh yeah.
And she posted it to Facebook and is all proud of herself. And it's like
crazy. Well,
like,
go back a little bit to the Canadian stuff too. There's some scary so Doug Ford is fucking scary. No ifs about that. So Alberta is going to be looking at an election in the next year or so as well. And what's interesting about Alberta, and I made a quip at the beginning, you know, that's where our concentration of religious nut jobs is. Ooh. And they were run by what was called the Progressive Conservative government for like 40 years. That was the only party that was ever elected in like 40 years. And two and a half years ago, the NDP, which is the leftist party, won in Alberta, which was unheard of. And of course, the minute they hadn't even been in power for 6 months, and the right wingers were bitching and moaning that they were fucking up the province and this and that, whatever. So what happened? The Progressive Conservatives, they're right wing, but not super right wing. So a bunch of them broke off to become more right wing, called the Wild Rose Party.
No, that sounds.
Excuse me, one moment.
It's giving me flashbacks of like the clan names that they'll have down here, like the Knights of White Camellias or whatever, and all that shit. Yeah. So that automatically gives me bad vibes.
Yep. And then the Progressive Conservatives kind of dwindled down to next to nothing. But neither one, because it really split the conservative vote. Mm-hmm. They were worried about that.
Yeah.
So a year or so ago, I think it was just about a year ago, they actually came back together and formed the United Conservative Party. There were a few PCs that were like, and stayed their own thing, but so the Wild Rose became the United Conservative Party, and they're what's going to make a run for the government next.
Well, that's just...
Yeah. it's like I've always said, is that we're seeing a lot of incursion of American crazy politics up.
It gets better. It gets better because you can really see that happening now. What is happening is the leader of the new United Conservative Party, his last name's Kelly, I want to say. Carrie or Kelly, I forget. He's a douchebag. Jason Kenney. So he is like anti-abortion and anti-marriage equality and all that fun stuff. And the scary thing that they're seeing right now is that the UCP is actually meeting with pro-life organizations. And that's not something that's ever happened before that I'm aware of. Yeah. And it's to the point where a group of women that I met some of, they have formed the Alberta Handmaidens.
I saw that. Yeah, the handmaid costumes.
Yes. I met the ladies who started that. And they wear the handmaiden costumes, and they go to areas where this Jason Kenney is known to be having meetings or speaking, or if they know that there's a UCP thing going on, or they know that there's a pro-life thing going on, and they just stand there. It's a silent protest. The only thing they will say is like the lines the handmaidens would say, like under his eye or whatever.
Blessed be the fruit or whatever.
Yes, blessed be the fruit. And they just have a signs that say the handmaiden's tale is not an instruction manual.
I like that.
Yeah. So they've been doing that for a while now. And they've made some progress. And one of the things too that happened in a federal thing. So we have federally a program that provides funding to nonprofit organizations in order for them to hire student employees during the summer. So the government pays them so that they have extra money for salaries for these kids for the summer. And one of the ladies that I met, she's also involved with the handmaidens, found out she was researching something else, something to do with right to life groups. And she found out that some of these right to life groups were getting some of this federal funding for student employees.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And this is the beautiful part, though. She did a whole bunch of freedom of information requests and followed the money trails back to a lot of these organizations so that she could prove it. She took that to the media. And just a few months ago, Trudeau changed the law and said that if you're getting federal funding as a nonprofit for this program, you must sign a document saying that you uphold the rights of the Constitution, one of which is that you have a right to, like, it's not spelled out in the Constitution, but you have a right to an abortion, right?
Yeah.
And the conservative groups are pitching a fit. They're like, discrimination. We're like, yeah.
Who cares?
Well, and the thing is, and it's not like if there's a church, like let's say a Catholic church funded group that was, say, feeding the homeless, and they wanted to hire some students to help with that. Because the churches, even though we know the Catholic Church is against abortion, that's not the primary focus of their group. The focus of their group is feeding the homeless. They're fine. But these right to life groups, because what they were getting funding for a lot of the time were crisis pregnancy centers.
Oh God, there's actually one in my area. There's a crisis pregnancy
center. There's one in my area too. And they're all over the place in Alberta. And for those of you who may not know, a crisis pregnancy center masquerades as a place where a pregnant woman could go to get information about choices, except that it's not, because they won't give you any information about abortion, and they will basically lie to you to try and convince you to have your baby. So
yeah, one of their tactics here in the States that they're using is that although people are catching on, is that they will lie, like they'll outright lie, but they're starting to lie about how far along the pregnancy is, because I want to say Louisiana, might be Missouri. I can't remember which state off the top of my head has passed a 15-week abortion ban, which generally is 20 to 22 weeks. Anything after that has to be medically necessary. And basically, most women do not find out or realize they are pregnant until 6 to 8 weeks. So they'll tell people, well, you're only 6 weeks pregnant, when they're actually, or they'll tell them that you're 22 weeks pregnant, which puts them outside of the range.
Or they'll lie to them, say it's early or long. That way they won't get it in time.
Yeah, they what they're doing is preventing getting a possible abortion on time.
Yes. So because these groups' primary function is to circumvent something that is a right in the Constitution, they are not eligible for funding any longer. And if they want funding, they have to sign a paper that says that they support all of the rights that a person has. And they are pitching a fit, saying that, it's religious discrimination. And it's like, no, it's discrimination against people who don't have any respect for the Constitution. And it
sounds almost like the Trinity case, for the playground. And now there's another case. I'm trying to find it. I know I posted about it. That's challenging it, saying, "Oh no, we're the same as Trinity." I don't remember the details.
Is the Supreme Court going to hear about one? Have they decided, or is it still going up?
Yeah, it's still working its way up the chain. But they're actually holding off on the Trinity case, pushing it up the chain, because they're counting on the fact that Kennedy's going to retire this summer. Or assuming Kennedy's going to retire.
That rumor's been in the legal community for 5 years.
Pretty much since he got put into office, if you can call it. But allegedly the Reich is saying that, Justice Kennedy is planning on retiring in June. That'll give us another Supreme Court, which will push it 6-3. So they're holding off some, quote, big cases like the Trinity case on taking it to Supreme Court, because they want to make sure that they have that. But it's just rumor that Kennedy's retiring. He himself has not confirmed either way, as far as I can tell. So it's just like,
I think if the election had gone the other way, I think half the court would have retired, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you there. But, Ruth Bader has basically come out. She's not retiring until the Democrats are back in power. I mean, not in those specific words, but basically she said, I am not retiring
until somebody who's not a absolute loon.
Yeah.
By the way, go ahead, finish your thought.
I don't remember what it is now.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Just Nicola was chiming in about the crisis pregnancy centers, saying that they just skim below the standards of being recognized as a healthcare provider, so they're not subject to health regulations, which is why they can get away with lying about.
And I think that same premise holds here in the U.S., although I know some courts have been critical of them. So I think that's another one that's going to end up in front of the Supreme Court, which is what the Reich wants, because this is how they're trying to eliminate Roe v. Wade.
Well, and the other thing that was worrisome and shows that, unfortunately, American style stuff is leaking up here, because like our abortion laws, there's no way, like, it would have to be a federal thing, because it's a federal decision. So I'm like, I said to the ladies, I said, okay, but how is what Kenny doing a threat to the federal law? And they said, well, it's not, but he's going to try and restrict it provincially, exactly the way that you guys are doing it, by passing laws that restrict access in various ways or defunding.
Yeah, well, states are allowed here to do some kind of regulation on it. That was one of the caveats of Roe v. Wade, and then also with Casey v. Planned Parenthood, but that they are allowed to sort of put their thumb on the scale, so to speak. But the thing is when the regulation goes too far is when they strike it down. But honestly, I think that the states have acted in such bad faith about it.
Yes.
That they should completely, it's too bad. We're going to take your toys away and you can go home.
Yeah.
The closest thing to that that's ever happened here was Prince Edward Island, which is a province, but it's teeny tiny.
Green Gables.
Yes, Anne of Green Gables. You got it. They because there was only one clinic on the island, and the federal government, and this was before Trudeau, if memory serves, which Harper makes sense. They decided that it would be more cost effective if they closed that clinic and make everybody go to Nova Scotia on the mainland. And of course, that's hours of trip. And you would have to take, extra time off work and arrange transport and all of this shit. And so it amounted to basically restricting abortion and PEI. And now I believe that they have a clinic back again, because I was talking to the ladies about that. But that's the closest thing that has happened. And I don't think that any province has tried to restrict abortion on their own, because really for most of Canada, it's been a non-issue for 30 years.
Yeah.
Like the
fact that it's becoming an issue is disturbing to me.
It is.
Yeah, it's like Canadians have been very chill about it. It's like, yeah, whatever, and they haven't seen the sort of reactionary bullshit as to the extent that we have in America. And so to see it start to rise up in Canada is what is telling me, like,
very, very
something's freaking wrong.
To correct the commenter, it's not leaking up there, it's intentionally being planted.
Well, I know. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, the it's no coincidence that this is happening. This has been, it's actually even pre-Peter LaBarbera, but he's actually, I'll say, part of the impetus. But this is part of their plan, because the Reich knows if they can get Canada to start pulling the bullshit they're trying to pull down here, the United States is going to follow in some regard, and vice versa. Yeah. And the case I was referring to with the Trinity case, it's the Trinity Lutheran in Moses. Oops. I might be. It's in New Mexico, the new one. I'll post the link in the show notes.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'm just like, we should have legalized pot like this month instead of July. Get everybody smoking weed, and then hopefully they'll be like, no, we don't want to vote for those fuckers.
They forgot to go vote.
Yeah, there we go. It might be in time to save Alberta. I don't know about Ontario yet, but it might come in time to save Alberta. Maybe.
Yeah.
So all you Albertans out there, start encouraging your right-wing nut jobs to smoke weed as soon as it gets legal.
Might chill them out a little bit.
Just a tad, man. Anyway, ladies, that about wraps it up for this week. So, yay. So let's let Morgan go first since it's been a while. Morgan, where do we find you?
All right, you can catch me on the Biskeptical podcast of Trav Mamone. That comes out about every 2 weeks. Just did an episode on the Israel and Palestine nonsense. And you can catch that on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. You can also follow me on Twitter at Mostring. That's MOSTRING. Or you can look for Morgan, the Essential Consultant Stringer. And also you can find me on Facebook, Morgan L. Stringer.
Awesome. And Beth, where do we find you?
Easiest way is on Twitter, Dune998. All my postings from Facebook and from my blog transfer through there. So that's the easiest way. You can find me on Facebook under Beth A. Hambridge. I'm on YouTube, but I haven't put anything new out in a long time. I'm still trying to figure this computer out.
It'll come.
Yeah, I'm figuring out the voice and the video stuff. It's a little bit different than my old computer. Plus, I don't have the same programs, but I found a program and I might put on this so I can do like screenshots. So you can look at me instead of my silly slides.
Morgan, did you even see when she had the new computer yet? Or I can't remember. Because she's like all sharp and non-laggy now.
Yeah, you get to see my apartment, which I have half hidden because like I was cleaning.
Sadite. So you can find me on Holy Crap the Vlogcast, which is 12:05 a.m. on Sunday mornings. holycrapthevlogcast.com with Shuj and Tribble and our motley crew of panelists. Yeah, I was sick this weekend, so I did not go on. I picked up something either on the plane or the convention or something, but as you notice, my voice is starting to give out, so it's a good thing we're about done, because yesterday I told Beth I sounded like an asthmatic walrus, so there's some improvement at least. Of course, you can also listen to me read the Quran at www.fullquranic.com, where I read it so you don't have to. And of course, we'll be here next week. We'll have to surprise you because we have a bunch of irons in the fire, but we haven't pulled one out yet to see what's happening next week. So we'll see who we can drum up for you. We've got a lot of inquiries out, so it'll just be a matter of who's available next week. So, but we'll be here 7:30 p.m. Eastern, unless there's a power outage or some shit like that. You never know. It's summer, and just to get everybody thinking about it, in July beginning of August, we're not going to be here too much because I'm going away for 3 weeks. And so if the girls want to do something, by all means they can, but I'm not going to be around. So chances are we won't be doing much of any shows at that point. So unless I pop in on location somewhere, because I'm hoping to hit a bunch of other podcasters while I'm out traveling, so we'll be looking forward to that. Going down to Grand Canyon, Vegas, and the Sturgis motorcycle rally. So
heck yeah,
there's a bunch of podcasters in between that we hope to be hanging out with. I just contacted the Waiting for Wrath crew today because we seem to be going through the Wyoming in their area. So maybe dropping in to see those crazy guys. And we're going to be seeing probably Ari and Prophet Jeremiah and Skeptic Brett and all those folks out in Colorado. So hopefully Brett says he's going to plan some kind of party because it's his birthday that week. So we shall see what he comes up with. And we're going to be in Minnesota. So hopefully we'll run into the Minnesota 8 ladies over there and maybe Riss and company. We'll see who's available. And where else? Oh, we'll see.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fucking states that I'm going to be checking like 11 states off my list that I haven't been to. So it's kind of crazy, but it's weird. I checked because originally I was going to be, so we're going to be in Vegas, and Vegas is just slightly more west than Calgary is. So it's like, okay, so I haven't met my peak of Westness yet, except that when I was in Calgary, as I said, Ali and Alishba were there, and they invited Dallin and I to go to Banff with them on Monday, which we did, and that's where the Rockies are and the beautiful mountains. And so we actually, I ended up edging out Las Vegas westwise by a few longitudinal degrees. So I looked it up, and it's like just a little more. So I've already maxed out my Westness for the year, but it's all right.
Your West.
I have to do the Southwestness now. But anyway, so we'll see everybody next week, and thanks to everybody in the chat there. And I see Clockwork Rex and Nicola and Trav, of course, was hanging around, and Mrs. D and Booleanator / Dave, and lots of folks in there tonight. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we will leave you with the Humanist Creed and see everybody next week.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.